Love is an art and it's steeped in spirituality, but it is proven scientifically. Did you notice that I say it's an art? And I said it's an art because everybody experiences, expresses, feels, and receives and gives love differently. Whereas science is the same for everybody. And science has proven that the contribution of love in our life is tremendous. It's everything. You can't get more than the contribution of love in one's life. But let's try and crack the code of love and discover it. And I would say that love really is a verb. Why? Because verbs are action, and love really is action. Real love is action. It's not just sitting there and waiting for it all to come to you. Before that happens, you have to do a lot of action because you have to generate your energy. And love what you do and do what you love. Why? Because that way you're going to reach your goal. And if your goal is even unrelated to finding a relationship, love what you do and you will reach your goal. But especially if your goal is to find your soulmate, you want to attract somebody to you that's on the same wavelength. So think about it. Think about the wavelength that you want to be on. Because a thought is energy. And when we think, we give out that energy. And it goes out into the matrix, into the field of energy. And it transmutes. And the thought becomes an emotion. And emotions are magnetic. And then they pull back to us what we thought. That's why it's so important to think love, and to think lovingly is an action. It's a verb. And the secret of happiness is wanting what you love and loving what you get. It's common sense. So where does this famous love live? It says it lives in the heart. It lives in the center of us. It's not in the head. It's not in the legs or the arms, right? It's in the center of the body. And they are different frequencies of the vibrations of love. And Christine Sheldon, actually, you can find her on the internet. She does a very good triangle, and she very clearly shows the different frequencies of the subtitle, should I say, of love, from admiration to friendship to anger to admiration. And it goes all the way from, at the lowest level, from, I think it's 25 frequencies, 25, all the way up to 500 and higher. But love is scientifically measured. It's not just in the figment of your imagination. And love is everywhere. It's in the colors, it's in the smells, it's in the language. Don't swear. Low vibrations. And if you don't want it, don't say it. And that's very important. We're all about 75% water. And for those of you who have read the book of Emoto, the Japanese scientist, he died now about 10 years ago, he wrote a beautiful book called Messages in Water. And he shows very clearly that he takes a drop of water and he flash freezes it. And underneath the microscope, where he flash freezes it, he writes a word. And if the word is a good word, like with a high frequency of love, admiration, friendship, the drop of water will freeze into a beautifully, perfectly formed snowflake. And if he writes a nasty word like anger, selfish, hate, that drop of water from the same source of water is going to freeze in a deformed way, and it's going to be sort of ugly, brown, horrible. But this is, what I call scientific proof, because it's happened time and time again. So you want to follow and you want to do some of the exercises for loving yourself. Loving yourself is what? Loving yourself is creating, it's positive thinking. And hating yourself is destroying your gifts, destroying what you are. It's negative thinking. Do not allow your left brain to rationalize your right brain. With your bad moods and thoughts. You might be in a bad mood and you can say, well, I'm in a bad mood because XYZ went wrong or was nasty to me. Okay, wallow in that for 5 minutes and, and analyze why it happened and, mouth it out of you. But don't stay in that. Don't allow yourself to stay down. Don't allow yourself to stay hateful. Don't allow yourself to stay angry. Because by doing that, you are simply a victim of yourself. You're not taking responsibility, for your life. And taking responsibility for your life, of course, is doing everything that you can to be able to co-create the life that you want. And those are not just words. This is really very, very doable. So, how do you find love? Be it. That's the first thing you want to do. Stop looking outside there in the world for the sentiment of love. It will come to you when you love yourself. Why? Because you will be vibrating at a higher frequency. You'll be vibrating at a frequency that will attract, remember, electromagnetic, that will be attracting love to yourself. Love, or at least the passion of love, which I know a lot of people are looking for, it's a little bit like, a 5-star restaurant or 5-star hotel. When you go to a 5-star restaurant and you eat this wonderful food, it's wonderful, but you still have to feed yourself when you go home, don't you? And when you stay in a 5-star hotel and everybody's catering to your every need, that's wonderful. But, what do you do when you go home? Life goes on. You have to look after yourself. So, you see, the love that you will receive and that you receive, because whatever's in your life today is what you are emitting. And that is what love sees in you. And it's got nothing to do with ego. It's your soul. It's your true uniqueness. It's your true love. So there's, of course, the $1 million question. How do I love myself? Well, be natural. Don't pretend to be what you're not, because that would mean that you're embarrassed of who you are. So that's not a good start, is it? And, if things aren't working out in your life, well, learn how to make lemonade with lemons. Give your love lavishly. And not just to outside people. Give your love to yourself. And this is not being selfish. Care for yourself. Look after yourself. Like you would look after a child or your spouse. You would look after them. That's part of the fun of loving. How do you treat them? Treat yourself as you would treat someone that you love. And the acid test is, what would I do? Well, if you had a child who you love, you wouldn't feed them food that's bad for them, right? You would feed them good food. Do you feed yourself good food? Do you skip meals? Do you not pay attention to what you put in your mouth? From time to time it's okay, but not all the time. How do you speak to other people? Speak to other people how you would like to be spoken to yourself. If you bark at other people or if you grunt at other people, don't expect them to be particularly nice or warm to you. How do you walk when you see somebody walking in the street slouched with their shoulders down and dragging their feet? It's not very inspiring, is it? So imagine like a gold thread coming out of the top of your head and walk through life. Walk down the sidewalk. Walk up and down your stairs at home or in your apartment. Walk with that beautiful golden thread that's connecting you to up there with your head high, your chin high. Feel the energy. Be in love with yourself. It's this famous being is I am. And I am stands for what? I've said it in some of my Facebooks, but here it is again. It's so powerful. I stands for intention. A stands for the action that you take for that intention. And the M stands for the manifestation that occurs after you've taken that action. And it does. It always does. I am are the two most important words in the English language. And they are the same in any other language, by the way. And it's a magical and a miraculous formula. And it works. I remember one day that I thought my life could be much more than what I wanted it to be. I took the time, I sat down. What did I really want my life to be like? I sat down and I played with if everything were possible. Or you have 3 wishes, which is one of my favorite games. What do you want? And I just let the pen flow and I let myself have fun. I wrote it down and I would look at it on a daily basis. It doesn't happen overnight. And loving myself meant that I kept on looking at it daily. I would put the images of how I wanted my life to be, the relationship in my life, and I put them everywhere I could see it. And whenever I saw it, I actually took the time to think about it, to feel it, to imagine it, a few seconds off from my current reality, where I did not have it, obviously. So I just allowed myself to imagine it. And that's taking action. It is the transportation, the transmission of what you consciously want to your subconscious mind on a repetitive basis, fueled by that little extra injection of what love is, and it heightens the energy. And eventually it happens. The subconscious mind is what makes it all happen. So you want to program to re-edit your subconscious mind in such a way that it believes, because it's repetitively given the message, that what you want has already happened. And one of the very useful times to do that is at night, when you're in bed, just before you drift off to sleep. It's the moment when you are very quiet and there's not a lot of activity going on. And most people find themselves thinking about everything that went wrong that day or everything that they don't yet have in their lives. You have to be very careful, because this is a very special moment. You want to take these few moments and you really want to become the boss of yourself. You really want to control your thoughts. And you say, I don't want to think about what I don't have. I'm only going to think about what I do want. And you're going to put into your thought, and you're going to imagine, if everything were possible, what is it that I want? And play with it, because in your mind, you're always right. And so allow those thoughts of the wonderful relationship, how good you feel, how good you're making the other person feel, and drift off to sleep with it, because your brain will go from beta down to theta and down to delta. And that is where your subconscious mind will be unconscious during the evening, during the night, and your subconscious mind works best when it is unconscious. So let your unconscious do the work, and when you wake up in the morning, it's a new day, but you have already taken a lot of action towards loving yourself. Relationships based on want and need don't work. They simply don't work. But a relationship that's based on how you love yourself will get you the love that you love. It's just like the restaurant syndrome. You know, the restaurant syndrome, I call it, is very simple. Is if you walk past a restaurant with lots of people in there, you will be inspired to go into the restaurant. If you walk by a restaurant which there's nobody in there, I don't think you want to go in there. And so stop regretting the past, because if you're regretting the past and on top of it you're fearing the future, all you're doing is you're projecting into the future bad experiences that you had in the past, and you're bridging over, you're forgetting the present, and this is where all it's happening. So instead you want to do is thank the past for the good parts, and also you want to thank the past for the bad parts, because they gave you lessons which you can learn today and which you can change. Otherwise you won't change. We learn through transformation, and transformation happens when things are bad, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad in the future. So don't project it. Live the present. Be attentive, be aware of what you're processing emotionally and mentally today in the present time. You know, two people who are in love, they whisper to each other. They whisper. They don't sit there and talk loud and shout and scream. This whispering, that's true bonding. So be silent with yourself. Bond to yourself. Listen to yourself. Hear yourself. And I make you a bet you're going to hear the word hope. And hope is a very, very empowering feeling if you have something to hope for, of course. And if you do, and you hope, you will have instincts that will come to you. It's like being in the flow. And you will follow your instincts, and you will take the action. It's just like the restaurant syndrome. The restaurant syndrome, I call it, is very simple. Is if you walk past a restaurant with lots of people in there, you will be inspired to go into the restaurant. If you walk by a restaurant which there's nobody in there, I don't think you want to go in there. And so stop regretting the past, because if you're regretting the past and on top of it you're fearing the future, all you're doing is you're projecting into the future bad experiences that you had in the past, and you're bridging over, you're forgetting the present, and this is where all it's happening. So instead you want to do is thank the past for the good parts, and also you want to thank the past for the bad parts, because they gave you lessons which you can learn today and which you can change. Otherwise you won't change. We learn through transformation, and transformation happens when things are bad. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad in the future. So don't project it. Live the present. Be attentive. Be aware of what you're processing emotionally and mentally today in the present time. Two people who are in love, they whisper to each other. They whisper. They don't sit there and talk loud and shout and scream. This whispering, that's true bonding. So be silent. Be silent with yourself. Bond to yourself. Listen to yourself. Hear yourself. And I make you a bet you're going to hear the word hope. And hope is a very, very empowering feeling if you have something to hope for, of course. And if you do, and you hope, you will have instincts that will come to you. It's like being in the flow. And you will follow your instincts, and you will take the action. Of course, if you don't have anything to hope for, then you want to start at root level, which means that you want to identify situations or items that resonate with you. And it's a whole process. It's the process of creating goals. And when you've identified what resonates with you, you go through, you do this in columns, and I do workshops on this. You then zoom into that with as much clarity as you can get. And it takes sometimes many repetitions until you sort of, pull off all these veils in front of you and you get the clarity. It's a great anti-aging. Goals are great anti-aging as long as you have a goal, because you're staying alive and you're fit. In France, they say, tant qu'il y a la vie, il y a l'espoir. But it should be, tant qu'il y a l'espoir, il y a la vie. In other words, as long as there's hope, there's life. And that's so true. Love is how can I put it? Love, it's an unconditional gift. And be very grateful that you can give it to yourself. Be grateful also for every little demonstration of love and affection and respect that you get, no matter how small it is. Somebody walks down the street and says good morning. You walk into a store and the sales assistant, gives you a compliment. Don't sit there and think, of course she's being nice, she wants my money. Just say thank you for the compliment. Enjoy it, enjoy the vibration. What happens in your life and around you is your choice as to how you respond to it. So respond with as much openness and connectedness to love, as you can. I would suggest, I suggest it everywhere, but I would suggest it here as well, that you use Ho'oponopono, which is, in Hawaiian, I think it means to make it right. And it's a wonderful tradition. It's an old Hawaiian tradition, one of forgiveness, but it also does make things right. So, for example, let's say you're not in your ideal relationship or in a relationship and you want to manifest one. So you start by using 4 simple phrases, which I will tell you what they are and explain to you what they mean. And then you can go research them on Google, and there's many books written out there on Ho'oponopono. Joe Vitale wrote one. There are many books. And the 4 little short sentences are, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. Now, what are you saying And what do they mean? I love you. You're saying this to yourself, of course, to your inner child, but you're also saying it to your higher power. So you're saying, I love you. And you give your name. You give your name. And you say, look, I'm sorry. You're saying, I'm sorry to you. You're saying, I'm sorry to yourself and to your higher power because you're taking responsibility that you have inside of you limiting beliefs, bad perceptions. And those perceptions have actually manifested themselves in the fact that you're not having the ideal relationship that you want, for example. So you would say, I love you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I have these incorrect perceptions. I'm sorry that I'm dragging you through life without having this wonderful relationship. And then you say, please forgive me. And this you're saying to your higher power. Please forgive me. Your higher power who knows you better than anyone, anything else, and knows the limiting beliefs that you've got, that you've picked up along the way. And you say, please forgive me. In other words, please give away for me whatever limiting beliefs that I've got in me. It's my responsibility, and please, higher power, do that. Thank you. He's there. He's listening. He's waiting. And you'd be surprised how when you repeat that daily, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, how things open up easily for you and things start to become right. It has all to do with love. So let's take a moment of how you can create this, right? So for example, remember that everything you imagine in the moment while you're imagining, it's real. It's real. If you're imagining that you're sitting on top of a tree and you're looking down and you're seeing goldfish in the pond, I'm just choosing that as an example. While you're in that vision of imagination, your body feels itself sitting on top of a tree and seeing the goldfish underneath you. So put some self-discipline into your life and choose to focus for 2 weeks. When you wake up in the morning, before you get out of bed, and as you drift off to sleep at night, for 17 seconds, it sounds very fast, but it's not actually when you have to focus for 17 seconds. And focus for 17 seconds on seeing yourself in your wonderful relationship, whatever that relationship entails, okay? And jump in and enjoy your little feelings for 17 seconds. Do that for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, increase that to 34 seconds. And after that, increase it to 68 seconds. The energy that you are emitting out into the universe is tremendous. So before closing, let's all take a look at how we can use love to create a better world. And I don't want to sound like a Miss World Beauty contest where they ask, what are you thinking of? And they go, world peace, even though it is a wonderful thing to think of. But, if you think, for example, of the wars, why do we have to focus on wars? And I'm not being naive. People are not born to hate, but children are taught how to hate. They're taught. They learn it. And what we want to do is we want to teach these children, take these children soldiers, for example. They're taught to hate so that they can go out and kill. It's easier for them. So why don't we, those who can and who would like to make an impact and work, because remember, love is a verb, therefore it's an action, go out and teach children how to love, how to play with the enemy, how to play with people they don't like, and how to see how they can make connections, because love does conquer everything. I'm not being naive, but it's something that we're born into and that makes our lives worthwhile. We can't leave kindness and morality to the governments. It's simply not their focus. It would be like asking a butcher to bake a cake. It's not his job, right? So governments have never really been into morality, into kindness. That's down to the individual person. And you're that individual person. Make an impact. And when you teach children how to play and how to love, when they grow up, that will become their reality. 90% of their mind will be trained, subconsciously trained to believe that love is everything. And they will show up in peace. We're creatures of habits, but it's up to us to consciously create the habit of love. The heart is the first organ that is grown, developed in our little fetus body, right? And it is the organ, obviously, that collects all our deepest memories and all the deeply rooted experiences that we've had, and we can pull them out whenever we want. Electrophysiology testing proves that the heart receives first all the not the information, receives all the data, and then it passes it up to the brain, and that information goes right into the middle brain, into the amygdala, and the amygdala immediately goes to work and produces the matching chemical to the emotion it's just got the message from. Electrophysiology testing shows how the heart picks up on the relevant information before the event occurs. And it's different for each person because it's relevant to what the person's personality or subconscious personality is like. So in a way, it's just like, the animals in the tsunami. If you wanted to know if a tsunami was coming and you saw those animals going away, you knew it was time to start running because the animals got it right. They were picking up the vibration. And the same information is picked up by our heart before the event occurs. It's called random generating testing. And I was actually a test subject at IONS in Petaluma, California myself. And IONS is an amazing institute, and it stands for Institute of Noetic Science. It was actually funded, funnily enough, I'll tell you the story, by the astronaut called Edgar Mitchell, and I had the honor of knowing him a little bit. And I remember he told me the story, which I'll share with you because it's hysterical. And he said, Nicole, on my way back from the moon, like he was coming back, from the grocery store shopping, he said, I realized I'm one of the most important people in the world because if I make it back to Earth, it wasn't guaranteed that they were making back to Earth. He told me the story. He said, before the 3 astronauts were going to the moon, they were asked if they wanted to continue or abort because they could guarantee them getting to the moon, they could guarantee them landing on the moon, but they couldn't guarantee them coming back from Earth. And so the 3 astronauts took a vote and decided, look, we're going to do what we want to do. We've got to die someday, so let's die, running after our dream. We're flying after our dream, and that's why they went to the moon, and luckily they made it back. But he was very aware that it wasn't necessarily, 100% guaranteed. And he said, if we do make it back, I'm going to be very famous, and I'm going to use this in the following way. He said he wanted to develop an institute which could analyze and study the effects of energy on thoughts and how it would have an impact in the physical world. And that's how IONS was actually developed and built. I think he told me, he said he raised the money in something like 15 days. He picked up the phone and he said to the secretary, I'd like to speak to the CEO of whoever it was. Here's Edgar Mitchell. And they said, oh, Mr. Mitchell, of course, what can I do for you? And he said, give me $1 million or whatever he said. And he had the check. So very fast, he raised the money for that institute. And I think it's a beautiful story. But what it did show, and I did the test, is that my whole body was literally wrapped up and connected to I don't know how many hundreds of monitors. And I was in a very small room, maybe 2 square meters, 3 square meters, in a chair, completely blacked out, no sound. And I was in that room for 4 hours, I think, 3.5 hours. And there was just one big screen in front of me. And all I had to do was look at the screen. And what happened was that every X amount of seconds, 4 different types of pictures would rotate on the screen, but they were random generated. Nobody knew who they were. There wasn't somebody in the background who was saying, now we're going to run this type of photo or that type of photo. It was random generated out of billions of photos. And the results were that the physiology test, the electrophysiology test, recorded that my body recorded over 40%. There were 4 different categories of photos. That my body recorded over 40% of the exact photos, millionth of a split second before the photo arrived on the screen. And this is just the proof. Why? Because the photo, what was happening, a picture, has an energy. And that energy, in a way, is an emotion. And therefore, it's magnetic. And we are electromagnetic people. We emit thoughts, which are electricity, which transform into an emotion out there and come back via magnetism. So my body was connecting on a magnetic level to the same vibration of some of the photos that were random generated from this computer system. So, we know with the head, but we learn from the heart. We learn from the heart. The tongue, remember, the heart is the first organ that grows in the body, and the tongue is the organ that grows from the heart. So when we say speak from your heart, it's not just the same. Use your heart as your GPS. It will guide you to every possible outcome that you desire. Health, wealth, love, success, helping others. Your intuition will take you anywhere you want to go. But you want to start listening to your heart, right? Speak from your heart. And also, only say what you want to say. Don't say it if you don't want to say it. If you don't want it, don't say it. And here's an example. So many people always say what they don't want. What is your ideal house? Well, I don't want it to be near the jungle, or I don't want it to be near the highway. No, what do you want? Who's your ideal mate? Oh, I don't want him to be small or thin or fat or stupid or intelligent. No, I didn't ask you that. I asked, what do you want? It's a habit that people are in. So learn how to say in the positive what it is that you want, because you're going to get the results that you want. As a child, you were connected to your heart. You were born out of love, and you were connected to the vibrations of your heart. Get back on that bicycle again. And it will come back to you. It's like learning, or relearning a language that you don't speak anymore. The more you connect to your heart, the better understanding you're going to have of yourself and your place in this world that you want to be. You're going to be much happier. You're going to be much more successful because your feelings and your thoughts are pure. They're pure to you. Therefore, they're aligned. Your thoughts and your feelings are aligned to the truth, or to a truth that's going to benefit you. Maybe not the person next door, but you. So realign yourself with yourself. Life loves you. But to enjoy its love, you have to love yourself. And then when you love yourself, you're going to enjoy the love of life. It's beautiful. It's there for all of us. And enjoy it. Do you all love me now? Bye.